So yes, just sit comfortably for a minute. So I don't know whether we're online, but I think we probably are. So welcome. There's a camera. If you want to turn around and wave, you're welcome. Wave at the camera. So welcome everyone. Don't say hello to your mother. Well, you can do actually. It's just there's a lot of mothers. So welcome to everyone online. Very, very good that you can join us. You've just joined us in the middle of our first evening on our Nature of Mind retreat called Buddhism and the Big Questions. And it's something weird, isn't it? It's like a studio audience, and we have a studio audience of 120 people. We don't. So this is the beginning of our retreat, and we've just been introducing ourselves to each other and introducing the team. So yes, welcome. If you're just this moment tuning in from all over the world, do let us know in the chat. This is very odd doing this when there's no computer around me, but anyway, do let us know in the chat where you're from. Do say hello to people on the retreat. They won't be looking because they've turned their phones off. Yeah? But they'll get back to you at the end of the retreat, I'm sure. So what we're going to be doing now is a slightly unusual sort of change. We're going to we always finish these evenings with a special ritual to dedicate ourselves to the retreat. It's not just enough to talk about a retreat and to even, extol the value of engaging and relaxing and serving. We need to do something that really marks that. And in a while, I'll be asking Vajrashura to lead us in a ritual that we dedicate ourselves to this retreat. And in the context of that ritual, those of you on the retreat will be taking one of these books that we've made specially of excerpts from Bhante Sangharakshita's thoughts about the nature of mind, and you'll be taking them from the shrine as the moment of the retreat really starts. Yeah, so you'll be taking from the shrine the Buddhist wisdom of the nature of mind, the whole tradition of the nature of mind from a Buddhist point of view. But it's also an auspicious evening for those of us, particularly in the order, for those of us who have been involved with the Triratna Buddhist order and movement, perhaps for some time. I was ordained in 1990. Sona was ordained. When you were ordained, Sona? 1974. 1974, which is history, isn't it? Yeah. I was. He still looks very young, yeah. One of the things, it's for us, it's an important moment because today is Bhante Sangharakshita's birthday. I remember celebrating many birthdays with Bhante when he was alive. I did a comedy routine. Laughter. It was actually quite funny. Thank you, I was just nodding sagely. I did a comedy routine, I think for his 75th. Which he thought was very funny, and he liked my facial expressions. Anyway, you don't need to know that. But for us, Bhante's birthday is very important. But of course, to some of you here, that won't really mean anything, obviously. But so I want to just mention how it does mean something. And it means this whole great question of learning and growing and having a teacher. If we are to grow in this life, and surely this life is for that one thing only, to grow as people, to grow in our mind, we need a teacher. In fact, we've always had teachers. In the Buddhist tradition, your first teachers are your parents. They taught you to walk, they taught you to speak. So much of what you've learned has been given to you by your parents. People are often keen to say that their parents are imperfect, but Bhante was also keen to say that children are imperfect as well, which is a good point to make, I thought. Yeah. But if we are to grow and learn, we need to learn from teachers. That is how we learn. Otherwise, all we ever do in life, if we're not careful, and it's quite easy to do it, and all of us will do it to some degree, and I include myself, is to repeat ourselves. If we're not careful, we just repeat our own habits. We get into the same kind of messes, we get into the same kind of scrapes. Really what we need is to learn how to live better and better. And we need to learn that from people who have lived more deeply, more richly, more wisely. So for all of us in this room, whether you have ever heard of Bhante Sangharakshita, the founder of the Triratna Buddhist order or not, teachers are very important to your life. They're actually much more important to your life than you probably realize. So much of what you now think of you is things that have been taught you, not just by words, not just by exhortations, but by someone's example, by a father's kindness, by a teacher's wisdom, by a mentor's empathy towards ourselves that perhaps we couldn't have for ourselves. Yeah. So much of the qualities that we now think of as ours were actually given to us. So it seems very, very important to keep on remembering our teachers, secular and divine, as it were, that we remember the people who've given to us. I was talking recently about my math teacher, Mrs. Beasley. She said I was mathematically ineducable, which is true. But she was very, very kind to me and very encouraging of me. She seemed to like me. I was in my early teens. And it sort of brought something out in me. It made me feel more of someone. Yeah. And then I've had that personally very, very much from Bhante Sangharakshita, the founder of our order and movement. I've got a teacher with a capital T in my life, not just teachers with perhaps a lowercase t. So tonight we're going to celebrate the teacher of Triratna, because it's valuable to do that, because that's why we're all here. That's why I'm ordained. It's into his vision of ordination that I'm ordained, and any member of the Triratna Buddhist order is ordained. It's why this retreat center exists. Bhante's burial mound is just up the path there in the memorial garden. We nearly always call him Bhante. When I first heard that, I thought it was a nickname. I thought it was like a sweet nickname. It actually means reverent teacher, but in my ear, it always sounds more affectionate than that. It has a sort of an intimacy to it, that word Bhante, that the word Sangharakshita doesn't. When people say Sangharakshita, it's like people saying mother rather than mom or father. Bhante has something more of that sort of intimacy. It doesn't just, it's not a sort of, doesn't feel highly reverential, although it includes that. It's an acknowledgement of a relationship. So we'll probably be calling him Bhante this evening. So we're just going to hear three very short anecdotes about him, people's experience of him, for those of us here in the room on retreat, and for those of you online. It's particularly valuable for those of you tuning in, hopefully from all over the world, because here I am in the main shrine room at Adhisthana, really just a few feet away from where Bhante's body is lying. In this ground that he so wanted to come to. He had the last 3 years of his life here at Adhisthana, which he said was some of the happiest in his life. I remember very well coming to talk to Bhante here. He met many, many, many people here. So it's lovely that anyone tuning in just now can, as it were, be tuning into Bhante's place, the place he lived and the place he died. So I want to first of all hand over to Subhadramati.
Thank you, Maitreya Bandhu. So, hello to all the new people who've joined us, from me as well. So I just want to talk about one quality of Bhante, which might be a slightly surprising quality. I'm not sure, but it's his modesty. And why I wanted to talk about that was, well, I don't know, if you think of a teacher, or even, not that he would have used the word guru, but, people do use that word sometimes. You think of, I don't know, like Rolls Royces and like a sort of line of gold watches that go right up, someone's arm. And Bhante so wasn't like that. I didn't know him very, very well personally, just a few individual meetings, but I did meet him where he lived here. He lived in what we used to call the annex here at Adhisthana, and you can still go and visit where he lived, and it's just so modest. It's just so modest. His bedroom is tiny, really, and just with a little bed that just looks like the exact same beds as we've all got here on retreat at Adhisthana, just a little single bed, a little sitting room. he was surrounded by things, but there'd be like gifts people had given him. And he was very, very keen not to amass possessions and property. He once said that if he died owning property, he would feel that he'd failed in life. I don't think he ever did own property in the first place, but he really didn't want to own anything. Towards the end of his life, he was giving more and more away to people who came to visit him. And then my personal experience of this was much earlier. So when I very first got involved in my 20s, Bhante at that time lived at the London Buddhist Centre. And again, he lived in very modest quarters. He lived in what are now some of the offices at the LBC. And he used to, people could visit him there. And we used to have this restaurant, and I worked at the restaurant. And one of our jobs was to take Bhante his lunch every day. And it's hard to describe what a sort of treat that was to take the lunch, because nothing really happened when you took the lunch. You'd go up and again, it'd be just, it'd be a bowl of soup, maybe a bread roll. In a sense, nothing happened, but what did happen was the way Bhante received that lunch. It was so gracious. It was as if you'd given him, I don't know, some huge prize or some huge feast, It was just but not in a sort of flamboyant way gracious, just something about the way he said thank you. This is what I'm trying to say. Something about the way he said thank you. He really meant it, which was kind of strange from the other side, because you thought, you're Bhante, of course we're going to give you a bowl of soup. But he didn't take that for granted. He said thank you with such courtesy and respect every single time. And if ever he was going to be away for a few days, he always remembered to write a little note to us to say that he was going away. He always signed it BH for Bhante, the note that he was going to be away. And just, it stayed on my mind. It had a very big effect on me that somebody who could have, in a way, commanded a lot, just wasn't into that at all, just received his lunch so graciously, so simply, and lived so modestly. So that's what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you very much, Siddhartha. Reminds me of a time I went to see Bhante here. He was talking me through all his furniture. He said that chair was my mother's chair. That chair was given to me by Deva Mitra. You could talk, he knew all the history, the provenance of all his furniture. None of it was bought. So now Vidyamala is going to share a story of Bhante.
Hello, everybody out there. Is this all right, tech people? Okay, you're right there. Good. Okay, I'm not going to share an anecdote as such, but I'm just going to say what Bhante means to me. I've came across Buddhism and this particular tradition, the Triratna tradition, in Auckland, in New Zealand in 1987. And we used to have quite a lot of retreats, and I used to go on all the retreats. And we used to listen to these taped lectures from Bhante. So he was very much the teacher. And the way we received the Dharma was through these, probably cassette tapes. I mean, this is ancient history now. And it was such a kind of interesting effect, because I didn't really understand. I didn't understand the words conceptually. In fact, I quite often went to sleep because they're quite long, some of these lectures. And he's got a particular sort of way of talking that could mean that one drifts. And yet something was coming through. It's so interesting. It was a recording done on a reel-to-reel or something, put onto a cassette, shipped to the other side of the world, played on probably not very good speakers, and something came through. And that captivated me. So it was this very weird sort of thing where I didn't understand the words, I didn't understand the kind of concepts, but something was coming through that I knew was true. I just knew, viscerally, this is the truth. And that's why he's my teacher, because I received something. I suppose it was a kind of transmission. So what Bhante is for me, if this word, what does he mean to you? I always say he's a portal. So Bhante for me essentially is a portal. It's a bit like if I was to describe that more symbolically or mythically, he's opened a door in the sky. That's what I feel for Bhante. He's opened this door in the sky for me to glimpse a completely different way of being. And it's all the things we're going to be looking at this week, expanded, vast, boundless consciousness and pure love. And we don't need to be these tight, constricted little creatures. There's the truth of the Dharma is that we can be free. We can be free. And I think that's what I got through these, crackly cassette recordings that I slept through. Amazing, I love this sort of image of the doorway in the sky. Or I'm just thinking now of those books, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Where you get to the back of the wardrobe and this whole world opens up. It's a bit like he's opened this world for me in a way that I have been able to receive it as a sort of I was a 20th century woman. I'm a 21st century woman. Western born, the fact that he was a Westerner, he was of my era, that was all important, and there weren't a lot of sort of cultural trappings of other cultures. So he kind of distilled it all down in a way that I could receive it. And then the kind of the point where I feel he really, really became my teacher was when he died. Because he had a sort of unusual personality in a way. So, I didn't quite know how to relate to him as a person, as a character. Even though I saw him a few times and it was always a lot of goodwill. But when he died, and it was here, it's quite amazing that we're all here now and it's his birthday. He died in the hospital. He had a very, very sort of pure death by all accounts. Maybe I'll say more about this in a few days when I talk about death. So I'll just touch on it briefly now. A pure death. There was a lot of joy. It was all very strange. There wasn't that much grief. There was joy, and there was this palpable sense of an unbounded consciousness, or it's not a consciousness, but unbounded consciousness that was completely tangible. It's the sort of stuff you hear about in legends, and over the centuries these stories get kind of elaborated, and the story will be, and lotus petals the size of cartwheels fell from the sky. That's the kind of thing that will get talked about. And I was there. My God, I was there. I was here. So now I'm completely and utterly convinced that it's possible for human consciousness to be at death, when the body falls away. It's possible for the consciousness to be free and full of love. And that was for me, that's his greatest gift. That was his greatest gift to me. And that was when I could get over my, here's him there and here's me here, and I don't quite know how to connect. It was like all that was just completely sort of blown away. And his greatest gift was, Vidyamala, it's possible for consciousness to be free, and this is what it's like. And what a blessing. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mark. That's really very beautiful. Really, really beautiful. I haven't got anything to say about it. It's really beautiful. Thank you. So let's hand over to Yana Vanchan.
Yeah, so hello from me if you're watching at home. Very nice to see you here if you're here. So Bhante, for me, I think well, as Vidyamala's just said, I think he represents, is in a way, the unbounded consciousness, the archetype of enlightenment that I was privileged to meet actually in human form. And in human form, as Subhadramati said, he was very modest. I think he was sort of fiercely uncharismatic in human form, sort of determinedly, stubbornly wouldn't play the guru, the teacher, because you can do that, can't you? I mean, as somebody who teaches myself, I know that it's easy to start to pretend to be profound. He was fiercely ordinary. But I can remember times having conversations with him, meeting with him. I was here once and I was on a meeting, a sort of work meeting, and he asked to see me. He wanted to discuss something about the meeting. It was a group of chairs of centers that we were meeting. He wanted to discuss something with me. And so it was quite prosaic what we were talking about, structures, organizational stuff, for about 20 minutes. And I left. Actually, no, just during that meeting, I, on the one hand, was trying my best to sort of just respond to his questions and so forth. On the other hand, I had this distinct, I can remember the moment, I had this distinct sense where my mind felt brighter and more expanded. Not exactly boundless, but it was filled with light. And I can remember the quality of the light, and there was a warmth to it, and it was a white light. It was a very, very tangible experience. And I knew that it wasn't my consciousness, that I was experiencing maybe a reflection of his mind. And as then Vidyamala said, when he died, when the physical body fell away, it felt like that consciousness was everywhere. And for me, it's still accessible. It's not as perhaps powerful as it was on the day of his funeral. But when I meditate, it's still accessible. And I've met people who have never met him in the flesh, for whom it is accessible, who have had visions of him. And so for me, he exists on different levels, but the most important level is, as it were, all I can say is it's an archetypal level. It's that portal, and I think that portal is open if you want him to be that. Yeah, that's the most important. As a man, he was one of the most unusual men that I think I'll ever meet in my life. I mean, he was a genius. He was an eccentric. He had a very idiosyncratic personality. He was very kind, an incredible memory, as Maitreya Bandhu was saying, and I think that was something to do with the clarity and purity of his mind. One of the most unusual men that I think I'll ever meet. But that's not, for me, the most important level. It is this archetypal level. And just a little anecdote. So I've recently returned from a 3-month retreat. I was co-leading this ordination retreat. And I'm not prone to visionary experiences in meditation or, well, out of meditation. I don't have that sort of mind, or don't think I do anyway. And but on this retreat, during one of the meditations, I was sort of just sitting receptive. I do bring him to mind, but I don't think I was particularly had him in mind. And this figure appeared from the Buddhist tradition, Padmasambhava. Padmasambhava is a semi-historical, semi-mythical figure. The historical part of Padmasambhava seems to date from the 8th century, and he was an Indian guru, magician, mystic, meditator, enlightened being who introduced Buddhism to Tibet But as a mythical figure, Padmasambhava is the archetypal guru. The archetypal guru. The guru principle, the principle of having a teacher. And we've lost, in our secular Western culture, many of us have lost that sense of archetypal guru. I come from an Indian culture, and it's normal for everybody to have a guru. It's normal in India, if you travel in India, if you're on an Indian train, somebody might say, who is your guru? Who is your teacher? They'll ask you your name, and then they'll say, who is your teacher? And they mean this spiritual teacher. Padmasambhava is that principle of teacher with a capital T. And he appeared in meditation, and he was, visually he was there, but it was more a sense of presence. It was very vivid. It wasn't like I was imagining him. I hadn't been thinking about him. It was as if something entered my consciousness. He appeared. And I took the opportunity of asking him for a teaching. So I thought this was the right thing to do. I said, great Guru, please give me a teaching. Please give me a teaching. And then waited. And Padmasambhava is quite a stern figure. I mean, he has this semi-wrathful smile. He's a figure of compassion, but it's like he doesn't take prisoners. Yeah, you don't sort of mess with Padmasambhava. Anyway, I sort of sensed he was just looking at me silently. So I said, "Great Guru, please give me a teaching," and there was no response. He was just looking, and so I waited, and then I said again, "Great Guru, please give me a teaching." And there was silence. Traditionally, the Buddha didn't always answer your questions, at least the first 2 times. If you asked a 3rd time, he would always answer, and the answer might not be what you wanted to hear. But if you asked 3 times, then the responsibility was yours. He would give you the answer. So I felt a slight tensing, having asked twice to Padmasambhava. And I can remember thinking, am I imagining this? But he was there. That's how it felt. Anyway, I asked a 3rd time. I said, "Great Guru, please give me a teaching." And I got an immediate response, and it was very clear, and it was 4 words, and there was no hesitation, there was no nonsense. The words that I heard them, heard isn't quite the right word, it's like they were in my mind, but they didn't come from me, and they surprised me, they took me aback. They weren't what I could have expected or imagined. He said, "I gave you Bhante." That wasn't what I expected. I gave you Bhante. And the tone was a little, I mean, it's difficult to say because I didn't hear them, but it was like the feeling tone was like, "What more do you want?" What more could you need? I gave you Bhante. For me, there was a thrill and a slight shock. I do believe that Bhante was from another dimension. I mean, maybe we're all from another dimension. I believe that he was associated with this figure, this consciousness, this archetype that is Padmasambhava. He has a close connection in his life with Padmasambhava. I believe that he was somehow here to help human beings develop their consciousness. And I think that he, in that sense, he even transcends the teachings of Buddhism that he's taught us. I think he was something more mysterious, something bigger in that archetypal sense. than I can fathom. And I believe that that portal, that mind that he was in touch with, the unbounded mind, is still open. And I hope that it's on this retreat, particularly because it's here, because Adhisthana has something still of this consciousness if you tune into it, particularly around the burial mound, particularly where he lived. I hope that you will encounter him this week. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Yongdonchen. Thank you, all three of you. Those are just three kind of visions, really, of Bhante, three glimpses of Bhante. What we're going to do now, what we need to do now, because all three of them really have already started to touch onto this great matter of the nature of mind, that perhaps mind, as I said, isn't locked in your brain somehow. Perhaps mind isn't created by brain. Perhaps mind precedes the world, as Buddhism says. Perhaps mind is in some way that we don't understand all around us. Consciousness is all around us. Perhaps we're eddies in consciousness, streams within consciousness. And that, if that's true, if that's even half true, all kinds of potentials arise. So what we need to do now is to open up to those potentials in ritual. And we're going to do two things in the ritual, and Bhattacharya I'm going to ask to come and lead the ritual in just a moment. We're going to dedicate ourselves to this retreat, dedicate ourselves to relaxing on it, to engaging with it, and to serving it. We're going to dedicate ourselves to that, but not just in our mind. We're going to act out that dedication by doing a ritual and by taking a book from the shrine we're going to be reading and deepening into our exploration of the nature of mind. And we're going to celebrate Bhante. And we're going to open up to a mind beyond our mind, or at least beyond our mind as we tend to habitually think of it. So I'll hand over to Bhattacharya.
Why don't we get ourselves set up for meditation just while we're... Great. So hello to everyone and everyone at home. My name is Vajrashira, and thank you for those three lovely talks evoking Bhante, and thanks for the wonderful introduction, Maitreya Bandhu. Maitreya Bandhu has said what we're going to do in broad brush strokes. I just wanted to say one or two things. One is just that, just to draw your attention to the shrine. So we have this beautiful shrine put together by the Nottingham shrine team, so thank you to them. On the wall, in the alcoves, all of these Buddhas have come from different centers around Triratna. So Adhisthana is very much the center of Triratna. It's kind of the coming together of all the different centers right throughout the world. And it's lovely being here with people from so many different centers. Quite a crowd have come from Dublin and many other places around the place as well. And in many of these centers tonight, they too will be doing a special puja for Bhante. So 20 years ago tonight, we started a series of yearly pujas, 108 pujas. So a puja every year for 108 years to bring Bhante to mind. So I'm always really excited about this, the idea of doing something for that long. I'm 45, so I'll be well dead by the time they're finished, the 108, in all likelihood, unless science saves me somehow. But I love the idea of every year coming back and just bringing to mind our teacher in this way. And on the shrine, then, we have this wooden box, and lots of centres received this wooden box. And in the box, there is a special candle with 108 hours in it, and 108 sticks of incense, and a few other little things as well. There's a book, which I'll come back to in a few moments. So, we're going to celebrate what's called the 108-year puja, as well as the dedication ceremony tonight. And as I said, I know in many centres around the world, they're doing this as well tonight. I know, for example, they're doing it right this moment in Dublin, for example. So, how we're going to start the night is that this special candle, which is only lit for an hour each year, is going to be lit by James, who's sitting in front of me. So James has the honor of being the person who has most recently asked for ordination into our community, into our order. I think it was just today, wasn't it, James? Kind of today. Good, close enough. Publicly today. Okay, great. And so he's, in a few moments, I'm going to, when I finish speaking, he's going to come up and light the candle and light the stick of incense to begin the evening's ritual, to begin fully the retreat, actually, really. And then what we're going to do is we'll chant the dedication ceremony just to emotionally deepen the engagement with the retreat, and really dedicate our energies to being here in the ways that Maitri Bandhu has said. We'll do the threefold puja, which is a wonderful celebration of the three jewels. And after the threefold puja, Oscar. So where's Oscar? There you are. So Oscar is going to lead the Shakyamuni mantra, the mantra of the Buddha. And when the mantra is going, please do come up. And you can make a candle offering to the shrine. So light the candle and offer it to the shrine. And this can represent our aspirations, our intentions to really give ourselves to this retreat, and offering that to the Buddha, who represents our fullest potential, what's possible on this retreat, what's possible in life. And then at the same time, take one of the books as well and bring them back with you. And just to say this, it's usual for Dharma books not to leave them on the ground. So if you can, just not leave them directly on the ground. You can have them on your meditation mat or whatever, or on a cushion, and take them with you afterwards. And then I want you to sign, if you could, 2 books, okay? So I find whenever I give out books like these on courses and stuff, it's really good to write your name on them, because otherwise there's 20 books with no names and you're not sure if you can take one or not lying around the place. So write your name, that's quite good. But also over here in the corner on this yellow clothed chair, there's the other part of this box, which is the book recording names of people who've done the 108-year puja. And this is another thing I love, that in 108 years' time, they'll read this book and they'll see John and Claire and Mary and all these people who are probably dead now, who've done the puja, 100 years ago or something like this. So it's a lovely way of recording as well, 108 years of celebrating our teacher. So there's only one book and one pen, so there might not be time for everyone to do that tonight at the end afterwards, but I'll leave it out for the next day or two, and you can just sign your name if you're here tonight, okay, just to save, just so we can get to bed before midnight, Yeah, and as Maitri Bandhu said, after the puja then, so once we take our books and we've gone back and everyone has taken a book, we'll just let the mantra die out. And after a few moments, I'll ring 3 bells, and that'll be it for the evening then. And we're back here again at 7 a.m. tomorrow for meditation. And we'll say more about that tomorrow. And just to remind you that we'll be in silence tonight until the start of lunch tomorrow. Okay? I haven't forgotten anything, have I? Good. Okay, so let's just settle in for a moment or two. And maybe in 2 minutes or so, when people have settled, you can come up and begin the ritual, James. Yeah. I should just say, when we're making the candle offerings, if we could put them on the black part of the shrine rather than the wood, that would be great. And do come up in droves. Don't hang around as well. So the dedication ceremony for the Nature of Mind retreat and the 108-year puja for Urgyen Sangharakshita. So we'll begin with the dedication ceremony. We dedicate this place to the three jewels.
We dedicate this place to the three jewels.
To the Buddha.
To the Buddha.
The ideal of enlightenment to which we aspire.
The ideal of enlightenment to which we aspire.
To the Dharma.
To the Dharma.
The path of the teaching which we follow.
The path of the teaching which we follow.
To the Sangha.
To the Sangha.
The spiritual fellowship with one another which we enjoy.
The spiritual fellowship with one another which we enjoy.
Here may no idle word be spoken.
Here may no idle word be spoken.
Here may no unquiet thought disturb our minds.
Here may no unquiet thought disturb our minds.
To the observance of the 5 precepts.
To the observance of the 5 precepts.
We dedicate this place.
We dedicate this place.
To the practice of meditation.
To the practice of meditation.
We dedicate this place.
We dedicate this place.
To the development of wisdom.
To the development of wisdom.
We dedicate this place.
We dedicate this place.
To the attainment of enlightenment.
To the attainment of enlightenment.
We dedicate this place.
We dedicate this place.
Though in the world outside there is strife.
Though in the world outside there is strife.
Here may there be peace.
Here may there be peace.
Though in the world outside there is hate.
Though in the world outside there is hate.
Here may there be love.
Here may there be love.
Though in the world outside there is grief.
Though in the world outside there is grief.
Here may there be joy.
Here may there be joy.
Not by the chanting of the sacred scriptures.
Not by the chanting of the sacred scriptures.
Not by the sprinkling of holy water.
Not by the sprinkling of holy water.
But by our own efforts towards enlightenment.
But by our own efforts towards enlightenment.
We dedicate this place.
We dedicate this place.
Around this mandala.
Around this mandala.
This sacred spot.
This sacred spot.
May the lotus petals of purity open.
May the lotus petals of purity open.
Around this mandala.
Around this mandala.
This sacred spot.
This sacred spot.
May the Vajra wall of determination extend.
May the Vajra wall of determination extend.
Around this mandala.
Around this mandala.
This sacred spot.
This sacred spot.
May the flames that transmute samsara into nirvana arise.
May the flames that transmute samsara into nirvana arise.
Here seated.
Here seated.
Here practicing.
Here practicing.
May our mind become Buddha.
May our mind become Buddha.
May our thought become Dharma.
May our thought become Dharma.
May our communication with one another be Sangha.
May our communication with one another be Sangha.
For the happiness of all beings.
For the happiness of all beings.
For the benefit of all beings.
For the benefit of all beings.
With body, speech, and mind.
With body, speech, and mind.
We dedicate this place.
We dedicate this place.
the threefold puja. Opening reverence. We reverence the Buddha.
We reverence the Buddha,
The perfectly enlightened one.
the perfectly enlightened one,
The shower of the way.
the shower of the way.
We reverence the Dharma.
We reverence the Dharma,
The teaching of the Buddha,
the teaching of the Buddha,
which leads from darkness to light.
which leads from darkness to light.
We reverence the Sangha.
We reverence the Sangha,
The fellowship of the Buddha's disciples.
the fellowship of the Buddha's disciples,
That inspires and guides.
that inspires and guides.
Reverence to the three jewels. We reverence the Buddha
We reverence the Buddha
and aspire to follow him.
and aspire to follow him.
The Buddha was born
The Buddha was born
as we are born.
as we are born.
What the Buddha overcame,
What the Buddha overcame,
we too can overcome.
we too can overcome.
What the Buddha attained,
What the Buddha attained,
we too can attain.
we too can attain.
We reverence the Dharma
We reverence the Dharma
and aspire to follow it
and aspire to follow it
with body, speech, and mind
with body, speech, and mind
until the end.
until the end.
The truth in all its aspects,
The truth in all its aspects,
the path in all its stages,
the path in all its stages.
we aspire to study,
We aspire to study,
practice,
practice,
realize.
realize.
We reverence the Sangha
We reverence the Sangha
and aspire to follow it.
and aspire to follow it.
The fellowship of those
The fellowship of those
who tread the way,
who tread the way.
as one by one,
As one by one,
we make our own commitment,
we make our own commitment.
an ever-widening circle.
An ever-widening circle.
The Sangha grows.
The Sangha grows.
Offerings to the Buddha. Reverencing the Buddha,
Reverencing the Buddha,
we offer flowers.
we offer flowers.
Flowers that today
Flowers that today
are fresh and sweetly blooming.
are fresh and sweetly blooming.
Flowers that tomorrow
Flowers that tomorrow
are faded and fallen.
are faded and fallen.
Our bodies too,
Our bodies too,
like flowers, will pass away.
like flowers, will pass away.
Reverencing the Buddha,
Reverencing the Buddha,
we offer candles.
we offer candles.
To him who is the light,
To him who is the light,
we offer light.
we offer light.
From his greater lamp,
From his greater lamp,
a lesser lamp we light within us.
a lesser lamp we light within us.
The lamp of Bodhi,
The lamp of Bodhi,
shining within our hearts.
shining within our hearts.
Reverencing the Buddha,
Reverencing the Buddha,
we offer incense.
we offer incense.
Incense whose fragrance
Incense whose fragrance
pervades the air.
pervades the air.
The fragrance of the perfect life,
The fragrance of the perfect life,
sweeter than incense,
sweeter than incense,
spreads in all directions
spreads in all directions
throughout the world.
throughout the world.
Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha.
Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni 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 Swaha. Om Shakya Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Shakya Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha 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 Om Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya 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 Muni Swaha.
So feeling free to sit on or leaving as quietly as we can in our own time.